Hi everyone and welcome to Real Life Talks. I'm your host Yvonne Heath, author of the book Love Your Life to Death and founder of the I Just Showed Up movement. So joining me today is a very special lady. You are a very special lady, I have to say. I said I wasn't going to make myself cry and I'm already choking up. This is not a good start. So Melissa Hurst is here with us today and I welcome you. We met, and I wish with all my heart and soul we had met for a different reason, but we met a few months ago in Huntsville, and the United Way, incredible, they had the premiere screening of a documentary called Painkillers about the opioid crisis. And many people spoke there, and you and I were two people who did speak there for different reasons. But you shared your story, and I just applaud you for having the courage and to know that it is more important and to share your story, right, than to stay just, I mean, it would be very easy for you to just be silent and not talk about it, but you're choosing a different path, and I would truly applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Melissa, tell us about why you were a guest speaker at Painkillers, your journey, and a little of your background.
Sure. So, our youngest son, Luke, was 19 years old, and on Mother's Day, Sunday, May 14th, 2017, I went to wake him up and found that he'd passed away in the early morning hours. And it was total devastation. It was unusual for him to be home, being a teenager. He was 19 years young. It was very unusual for him to be home on a Saturday night, let alone any of our kids. And so my husband picked him up from work. We came home. We had just a beautiful evening together. We all laughed. We talked, the three of us, and it was just a really good time. And Luke was saying to us that he wanted to be a dad one day, but not anytime soon.
Right.
But he was just really looking forward to the next phase in life and going to college. And the last words we spoke, it was bedtime, and we both said to one another, "I love you," hugged, and that was the last.
Wow. So what happened?
It took 6 months for us to get the autopsy results back, and so we weren't 100% sure. And but on Thanksgiving weekend, the coroner called us and let us know that it was an opioid overdose.
Wow. So you had a wonderful evening. Luke was looking forward to his future, right? So, I mean, certainly you had no cause for concern that evening.
No.
Right? And so he must have taken something after. And
yes. Yeah. And, I didn't witness it. I didn't, both my husband and I weren't aware. So it was complete devastation to wake him and find that he was gone.
A family's worst nightmare. I mean, goes without saying, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and the sad truth is that this is happening. This is like an absolute crisis in our society right now. This is happening to many families daily.
It is.
Daily.
And I am really concerned for our community, for our country, for the world. I really believe we're fighting a chemical war, and we don't have the manpower, the boots to adequately fight this. And we're losing valuable lives. Every life matters.
Absolutely.
And, it just continues day after day. And we're not seeing lower numbers. What really concerns me is the numbers are going up.
At alarming rates. Yes.
Yeah.
And it is truthfully in every sector of our society. It isn't, people envision the heroin addict in the corner of the street, although their life also has value and they matter, and we need to know what brought them to that place and prevention. But this is happening to kids, to teens, to adults, to parents, to people everywhere.
Yeah. And there's, as I say, there's no age discrimination with it. And, you know, the drug world today, just trying a drug can kill you for the first time. And that I find very scary, because especially for our young people, they think they're invincible.
Absolutely.
They think they have their whole life ahead, which most do. But they don't recognize necessarily in the moment the consequences of their choice.
It's just fun.
It is.
You know, for some do have an addiction, and that's a whole problem, and we need to again have conversations. For others, it's just a bad decision, a poor decision, the last decision they ever made, such as my son Tyler, and that's why I was at Painkillers speaking. He went down a very dangerous road of drugs and addiction. Thank goodness at this point, Tyler has turned things around, and one of the catalysts was that his best friend, Drew, last December, December 2019, at a party, just having fun, celebrating, and overdosed and died. And I mean, my God, what an unbelievable price to pay.
Isn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
Like excruciating.
And, you know, whole life ahead, and
Yes.
and gone in the moment of a decision. And that I find very, it breaks my heart.
Oh.
It totally breaks my heart.
Absolutely, and the ripple effect of devastation for
Isn't
so many
it?
people, and so we need people like you, Melissa, who are willing to talk about this and what can we do. And we've talked about the fact that yes, we do need more professionals, and yes, we do need greater mental health awareness and prevention. That's one of the first steps. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And so what steps do we need to take in the professional world? Let's start there. What do you think?
Education. I think we need professionals have the ability to, they have the resources and they have the knowledge in front of them to teach us, to teach the community about what is going on, and also to be to treat as well individuals. But one of the biggest problems is that there are a lot of people who are silent users because of the stigma, and so they are not ready or able to reach out, and so people are suffering through this silently, and the help that they could be getting, they're not getting at this time. So, you know, the emergency room sees numbers of people every day, but I don't think it's even a fair representation of what's truly out there.
Oh, absolutely not.
And,
No.
and you know, we look at our frontline workers, our paramedics, police and fire, and they're dealing with this every single day. And that is just, for each individual, is hard to walk into day in and day out.
Yes.
And it's not, you know, something that would happen maybe once a week, or it is daily.
Daily. We'll talk about the elephant in the room also. Since I was a healthcare professional for many years, I worked in Emerge, and the truth is, with healthcare professionals, there are some that will be empathetic and feel like everyone has value and everyone matters. But the truth is, in a busy, crazy emergency room with, say, someone who has a problem with drug use, and they're coming in as a revolving door, they could be talking to people like, oh, Joe's back again, you know, and we need to change that, because people are dying, and if they are using drugs regularly, there is a reason, there is a problem, and they need help.
Absolutely. And I do not believe for one moment that the people who are struggling with addictions, that they choose that life. The underlying factors that go with it, mental health, I think, is a huge one. Coping skills, being able to cope with life, with whatever is before them. No one chooses that life.
Oh, well, you think when we think of that, and you know, you see the picture of the drug user over here. At one point, they were a baby.
Yeah.
They were a small child, and whatever, so many drug use has stemmed from a trauma, right?
Yeah.
Or not being able to cope, or as I say, we need to talk about grief and life's challenges before they arrive, so we have coping skills and strategies.
Absolutely.
So we don't have to numb the pain.
Absolutely. And
Right?
that is critical and it's key. Especially, you know, I really am concerned about the next generation. Because with social media, there is a huge void in self-confidence, in feeling accepted, loved. We're probably more alone in society than ever before, which is really ironic and sad when you think about it, because we have all the means to be in touch with one another, and yet we're more isolated.
7 billion people in the world, and so many are suffering in silos of silence and isolation.
Exactly. And we need to recognize that we need to equip our children and our children's children with the skills to be able to cope with life.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
Yes.
Because none of us have an easy life.
No, we all have our
you know,
challenges.
there's challenges every day, and but it's being able to pull the resources, count on the people that you know are there for you, and the skills that you have to be able to move forward.
Absolutely. And with my message of just showing up, just show up for yourself first. You have value and you matter. And if you do not have a supportive circle around you, find someone who will support you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. My husband, there's an individual, a very wonderful man, and he's had many challenges in life. And he said to my husband, "You're the only one who believed in me." And it takes one person.
That's all it takes. And it's interesting because I had a guest on, Christine Fishman, and we were talking about mental health with our youth, young children, and starting that resilience and knowing that you have or you can develop coping skills and strategies, and let's prevent this drug use, let's prevent suicides, let's prevent this, so that children have this going into teenagehood, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the other thing is, when I think of, I was ill prepared to face grief and life's challenges, and I went steady with red wine for many, many years. How is that any different than someone getting high? I just chose a drug that was legal and socially acceptable.
Yeah. And I also believe, and I have no scientific background, but I really do believe that all of us struggle with an addiction of some sort.
Oh, yeah.
And it may be not visible by the world as far as drugs or alcohol, or it could be shopping, it could be
busyness,
it could be, there's so many.
Absolutely.
And those are the ones that are not as harmful necessarily.
Right.
So they're under the radar.
Absolutely. Or again, with alcohol, it's more socially acceptable. Oh, we're just having a few drinks.
Yes.
Well, I still didn't. It was a crutch.
Yeah.
It was a crutch that I leaned on to numb my pain. And when I think of Tyler, our older son's journey, it was when he was 16 and he was about to get his license, and he had a dream of snowboarding, and he had an accident. He wrecked his knee.
Yeah.
And in an instant, those two dreams were, driving and snowboarding, and he did not have the coping skills, and he did not have the strategies. And, you know, smoking pot, oh, Mom, everyone smokes pot, don't worry about it. And, you know, okay, so what do I do with this? And it kind of spiraled. And it can happen to nice families. Let's not kid anyone and think, oh, it only happens to them over there. It happened in our family, it happened in your family, and it can happen to anyone. And we need to connect as community and be a loud voice now.
Absolutely. And we need to really erase the stigma that's attached to it. I have no shame in saying that Luke died of an opioid overdose.
Yes.
Because the drug didn't define him.
No.
And there is so much stigma attached that one by one, we have to start tearing down the walls associated with it and giving people permission to come forward and in a way, in a loving environment, in a safe environment where they know that they're not going to be judged, that what they say is safe, and that we're not expecting to change them. We're meeting where they're at. And I think that is so critical.
That is huge, right? Or this, back in the day, just say no. Well, I mean, that's all very fine and dandy. That doesn't really, right, address a problem. That doesn't, and yeah, it is challenging to meet someone where they are, right?
Yeah.
And accepting it. You don't have to like it.
No. But you can be there to help them.
Yes.
Love them through and support them.
Yes.
And, you know, it takes an average of, for an opioid overdose, 7 stints in rehab before they're actually able to even overcome the addiction. And I really believe we live in a throwaway society, which really is very sad. We need to let them know that it's okay, that if it's the 100th time that they're going, they're knocking this, trying to break it, that we are there without judgment, and that we are here to help them. And, you know, so when you think about 7 times, that's huge. That's not once, it's not twice.
It's really important to know.
It is.
It is very, it's like fall 7, get up 8.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And it's only a failure if you don't try.
Yes.
You know?
Well, and I took mental health first aid, and they talked about the cycle of breaking addiction. And they do say no matter what stage they're in, you can be in this stage of, okay, now I want help. Oh, but then you go back to using. And then you go over here, and then you're in the next, and then you go back to using. And so it's however many times it takes. It's
a lifelong struggle.
Yes.
And we have to be there.
We have to just show up.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting, when, as I mentioned to you, in our paper, right after we were speaking, there was an article, and they were talking about Simcoe Muskoka and how we kind of have the blinders on and we think it's not a great big problem in our society. Well, it's I mean, it's an absolutely huge crisis in Simcoe, Muskoka, everywhere. And the United Way with the movie Painkillers. First of all, when I was watching that, so that was all filmed in British Columbia, which is where my son lives, and I could just feel my heart pounding the whole time.
Absolutely.
We need to educate ourselves and know what's happening.
Absolutely.
Let's know the truth.
Yeah.
But then I found this in the paper that said, put an end to stigma, and I would love to just read these and get your thoughts. Sure. First thing it says, understand that it is a medical illness.
100%.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
Mental illness, physical illness, it stems from trauma or mental health issues or whatever. So addiction is also, so let's start there.
Absolutely.
Right? Change the words you use and avoid labels.
Huge. These are all so profound.
It's not, oh, you're a drug user or you're an addict. You have an addiction. Right? It doesn't, it's just like you said with Luke, it did not, whatever he was using, it did not define who he was. And you had so many wonderful things to say about Luke. And treat people with dignity and kindness. I mean, how important do you think that is?
That is the foundation of how we need to treat each other. And it is so important. You know, if I ever make somebody feel less than what they are worth, I own that, and it's up for me to change that. And you know, we have to treat with respect, love, and meeting where they're at. And sorry, what was the other one you said?
Changing the words you use and avoiding labels. Yes.
Yeah. And meeting people where they're at.
Well, and I think back again to Tyler, where, you know, he was labeled a troublemaker, a this, and, you know, a pain, and he's a big partier. And so he rose to all of that.
Absolutely.
Right? He just, okay, this is what I am. I'm no good. I'm a terrible student. I'm this. So, no, I don't actually, just thinking about, I don't want anyone to have, you have a problem with or you have an addiction, let's talk about how I can support you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, this is, and listening without judgment, we're all human. It is challenging, but it is so painful and so hurtful to be judged. I've been judged.
Oh, I have too.
Yeah.
And I've judged.
I have judged.
Totally, without wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah.
And it's catching myself in the moment and making sure that my heart is where it needs to be.
Yeah. And I think of, just as I'm thinking of this, when I think of just showing up and not being judgmental, but if we haven't just shown up for someone, and if we have judged, we need to also acknowledge that and then forgive ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right? And do better next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if there is a tragic outcome, right, in a situation, and some people say, I did everything I could to help that person, but maybe you didn't. That's the elephant in the room. Sometimes maybe someone was reaching out for help, but someone didn't take it seriously, or think, oh, they'll be fine, it's not that serious. And then they have to live with that. So I feel like they have to forgive themselves. And what can you do, right, from here on in?
And I'm working
stuff.
with that. I hold a lot of grief as his mother.
Yes.
A lot of.
Is there guilt that you?
Sorry, guilt is the word I was looking for. But I carry a lot of guilt, and I'm in the process of trying to forgive myself.
Well, and that is the best we can do, right? Because really, I mean, if you would never think that it would come to that.
No.
To, my gosh, right? Like you never think it would get to someone would actually die or something horrific would happen. I mean, who could envision that?
Yeah. And as parents, I'm sure you relate that we want the best for them. And, the loss of a child goes against how we view their lives. We want our children to outlive us.
Absolutely.
And it hits very, very hard.
Oh, well, and truthfully, that was the catalyst for my whole journey that started 10 years ago, that I just thought, I don't think I would survive a tragic ending because I knew that I did not have my own coping skills and my own strategies, and I thought, I need to do something about this because I have other children, and I wouldn't want, if there was a tragedy, I would want it to be something more than just a tragedy and then I stopped living, because how many people stop living?
Absolutely. There's days where I have to pull myself out of bed, and it's a forceful decision. But Luke wants me to live my life, and I know that. And the grief will never go away.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing I've learned, is that grief is with me the rest of my life.
Yes.
I'll never move on, but I will move forward, and in a way that I never dreamt or hoped that I would have to.
You wouldn't choose.
I wouldn't choose
this in a million years, right?
No, absolutely.
Yes, but you are choosing, as I have here, the most important thing, right? Be the evidence that someone's life made a difference.
Yes.
And you are truly honoring Luke by sharing who he was, and I will read what you wrote, that he loved life, he was extremely funny and witty, he had a huge heart, and was particularly sensitive to the downtrodden. When I was reading this about him, it was heartwarming and heart-wrenching, but that's okay, because it's beautiful to read. His smile lit up the entire room. He was gentle, sensitive, felt others' pain deeply, and sought justice, and he's missed every day. And you are keeping his spirit alive, and you are creating something positive from a tragedy in being the change that you want to see. Yeah. Right?
And the hope is that, no one else will have to go through the pain and the suffering. And when I say aftermath, Luke, those of us who've lost our loved ones, they don't, I'm glad he doesn't see the pain that was left
Yes.
behind.
Oh.
I really am, because it was accidental. It was not his intention.
Yeah.
And even if it was, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It
That's irrelevant at this.
they,
This
they
is
don't
not.
need to. I'm thankful that he doesn't see that.
Yes. How you have 2 other children?
3.
3 other
Yeah,
children.
yeah.
Okay. And how old are
so
they?
they're 28, 26, 24, and Luke would have been 22.
22.
Yeah.
And so how are they navigating through this new normal without their brother Luke?
It's been a journey.
Yes.
It's been a really difficult journey.
Yes.
Our second youngest, he's struggling a lot with it, and he was studying in Australia when we had to call him, and he was at the University of Sydney, and it was really difficult, and he's still working through
Yeah.
the pain, the emotions, and how he is going to move forward.
Yes, and you're having open conversations and talking about good times, bad times, and you're doing the best that you can by supporting each other and saying, yeah, this is hard.
Absolutely.
This is hard. Like, let's not sugarcoat it.
No.
And you did tell me something that you started, a resource for people. Tell me about that.
So there's a bunch of us moms in Simcoe County, and we've started a Simcoe, it's a website.
Okay.
Simcoe Moms for Overdose Awareness.
Okay.
And we have a petition right now online that I'm hoping that we can share and have people sign. And that's for a call to action for Prime Minister Trudeau and the government.
Okay.
And to recognize that this is a crisis.
Yes.
And that we don't have the systems in place to adequately deal with the crisis that we have.
Right. Well, you are certainly, again, I applaud you for everything that you're doing to be the change. You are honoring Luke beautifully, and I will support you in any way I can. We'll share this information, and we'll just keep talking and being the change. So I thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We're going to hug it out again after.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Yvonne. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this has been Real Life Talks, where we learn how to just show up for ourselves and just show up for each other, and sometimes have hard conversations that we need to have, such as talking about the opioid crisis and what we need to do to be the change. So I encourage you to educate yourself and to learn more. Check out the website. And my advice is always, if you want to be able to just show up for yourself, you want to be able to just show up for others, plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party.